Hello, I'm your host Sarah, and this is Insane. This episode is a narration of my guide entitled Patience and Wellbeing from a Qur'anic Perspective. Patience is a virtue that is encouraged by many world philosophies, religious and otherwise. Its requirement in the face of adversity has long been advised. The ancient philosopher Horace writes, "Patience makes lighter what sorrow may not heal." Patience has been conceptualized as a state and disposition in which a person waits calmly in the face of frustration, adversity, or suffering, with the internal state of serenity being the ultimate indication of its presence. Moreover, contemporary studies have highlighted the positive effects patience can have on well-being, which include increased self-esteem, increased life satisfaction, and decreased feelings of anxiety and loneliness. Sabr, or patience, is a core Islamic concept and is understood as steadfastness and self-control leading to feelings of peace. Al-Ghazali defines patience as steadfastness of religious impulse in confronting the impulse of desire, where one, through knowledge of good and bad action, is able to ascertain which actions to commit to and which actions to withhold from, irrelevant and at times contrary to one's own desires. Moreover, Al-Ghazali argues patience can take on different linguistic terminology depending on the context in which it is exercised. For example, Al-Ghazali states, when patience is exercised in words, it is called discretion. When exercised in the battlefield, it is termed bravery. When exercised by withholding from luxuries, it is known as asceticism. And when exercised in living according to one's own capacity, it is referred to as contentment. The significance of exercising patience to a person's well-being from an Islamic perspective is made clear when one observes that the virtue of patience is repeatedly encouraged in the Qur'an, especially in times of distress, and deemed to be enhanced through the remembrance of God, the outcome of which is postulated to be increased general well-being. Such verses highlight the connection between patience, dhikr, and the remembrance of God, where a person is encouraged to remember God, especially in times of difficulty, through the act of glorification and good deeds. Al-Ghazali points to the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Christ, peace be upon him, to emphasize the importance of patience in the Islamic context. He cites the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as saying, "Patience is half of faith," and Christ, peace be upon him, as saying, "You come to understand what you love only through patience with what you abhor." Al-Ghazali states, in order for one to master patience, one should persevere in its practice and seek assistance in doing so through the remembrance of God, contemplation, the recitation of the Qur'an, as well as dhikr. The ability to be patient is dependent upon certainty of faith and good deeds, where good actions increase one's religious impulse, thus making it easier to overcome the impulse of desire, and bad actions having the opposite effect. Furthermore, Al-Ghazali believes patience is one of the most honourable virtues to possess. Specifically, patience in times of difficulty is rewarded by closeness to God and victory. He quotes the following Quranic verse in support of this view. "O you who believe, seek help in patience and prayer. Truly God is with the patient." According to Al-Ghazali, patience is to understand that all worldly possessions are borrowed from God, and when they are taken from a person, it should be regarded as merely being returned to its rightful owner. Al-Ghazali argues being mindful of this makes the act of patience easier, as it leads to feelings of contentment with God's decree, which in turn safeguards a person from feelings of anxiety. To enhance the virtue of patience, Al-Ghazali advises, one must also be mindful of the whispers of the devil that stir the mind and cause negative thoughts. He states, most thoughts wander to a past that no longer can be reached, or to a future that is invariably decreed, and both are a waste of time. This advice is very similar to the techniques adopted during secular contemporary mindfulness, where there is an emphasis on present moment awareness, in which a person is encouraged to only entertain thoughts that are significant to the present moment. In the contemporary context, this technique is believed to bring relief from depression and anxiety and enhance general well-being. Al-Ghazali writes, "The exercise of patience is required in both good times and bad times." According to Al-Ghazali, patience is harder to accomplish on good days in comparison to bad, as in good times it is harder to be mindful and not take for granted the blessings one has, and it is also harder to not overindulge in life's pleasures, which often distract from the remembrance of God and the afterlife. Thus, Al-Ghazali argues, patience and thanking God in times of prosperity is an act of remembrance. As in these times, patience is required in restraining oneself from easily accessible activities and desires that make one heedless of God. In summary, patience is encouraged, especially in times of distress, and enhanced through the remembrance of God, the outcome of which, according to the Qur'an, is increased general well-being. The end. I hope you enjoyed this guide. You can download it for free on the Insane Insan website. Do take care.